Well, hello and welcome to the Sonoma County CareerFest. I'm Chris Catelli, and I'm happy to be moderating our One Step at a Time Leveraging Your Positive Digital Footprint workshop, which is a mouthful. Whether you're live or watching the recording of this session, we're pleased to have you with us today, and it's our hope that we can provide you with some insight and maybe spark some curiosity. I will remind you this is our last session for today, but the CareerFest will pick up again tomorrow. We'll be starting with our Creative Arts panel at 11 a.m. It will be our final day, but once again, all of our sessions are recorded and will be posted to the CTE Foundation website, which I will paste in the chat. Today's career readiness workshop is focusing on leveraging your digital footprint and will be brought to you by Global Talent Acquisition Brand Specialist for Skechers, Brandon Verdu. Behind the scenes, we're also getting support from Elizabeth Arntz, who's from SoCo, and Jess Hazelwood, who is the college and career counselor at Rancho. Both of these folks are going to be helping us respond to questions in the Q&A function. So we have turned off that chat function. And if you have questions for Brandon throughout our session here today, you can feel free to ask in the Q&A. Let's see. If you are in need of attendance credit from your teachers, we'll provide you with that attendance in the chat. There will be a form that you can fill out. We'll be doing that probably near the end of our session here. And I think that is all the information that I need to provide. So without any further ado, I want to introduce my good friend and Global Talent Acquisition Brand Specialist from Skechers, Brandon Verdu. I'll hand it over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on this panel. This is a pretty cool workshop to be able to host you guys. I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn a lot of things from a lot of the other panels. I was checking them out, a lot of career help pathway stuff. So, and, during this time, if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in the chat. I'll be able to answer any questions you guys have. So, but yes, thanks, Chris, for the introduction. So I currently the Global Talent Acquisition Brand Marketing Specialist here at Skechers. And what that means is I handle all the recruitment efforts through our international stores, international corporate, to our retail stores here in North America, and the corporate buildings and distribution centers in the US. So I do all of the marketing for that. So getting the right people and the right people to work for the brand of Skechers on all different levels, whether you're starting out in a part-time sales associate, all the way up into a VP of infrastructure in the IT group department, or a distribution analyst, or an international partner. So what does that look like from a social media perspective? I do manage all of our LinkedIn content, our Indeed content, Glassdoor. So those are all career platforms, as well as our career site that I'll be able to send you guys at the end of this recording. So this topic is really about leveraging kind of your guys' self and really showcasing your personal brand. Whether that may be, that you have a portfolio, how do you leverage that to get, the right employer to take a look at you? But I want you to know that on this side of the table, as far as the employee, Skechers is really doing a great job at kind of using our efforts, into getting to attract the right people. So what that means is, when I came to Skechers, yes, I did know that, they were number 3 in the world behind Nike and Adidas and flip-flopping with Puma. But, what are they doing that really aligns with what I kind of value and what I wanted in my career? And, so they did a good job of a lot of the things that they showcased on their career site. What it is, that it's still a family owned and operated brand, which not a lot of people know that. So how do we leverage that and in showcasing what it's like to work for Skechers? Since it is a family brand, there's a lot of those things that kind of go into that. Whether it's, what we do in the community, we hold the largest walk for disabled individuals around the US. That's here in Manhattan Beach. And those things, that people care about. What are these companies doing that align with my values? So not only are we showcasing what we have to offer, but we're also looking at the talent to help grow that. And I think, you guys' efforts in working on your personal brand can really help align with what you want to work for. So say if you have the same job opportunity in each company, right, and they pay the same, everything's the same, but they work a lot through philanthropic opportunities, so they give back a lot. They're very conscious about their global footprint, but the other companies aren't doing that. So, really work on kind of doing your due diligence and seeing what I really want to align myself in working the right way. I really think your guys' side of the table, as far as being the employee or future candidate, you guys have more leverage more than ever. Really holding these companies accountable for what they're doing, and does it align with kind of what you're envision your career with. So how do we leverage that? I think if I wanted to work for Skechers, and I was just starting off, and I really wanted to get into the marketing side of the business, but I know through schooling I had to go through that. But during school, I could get a part-time job at Skechers, right, and work my way up, so I know the product, I know the business, and then go through the internal route. Usually when we have an opening, we always look internally first, because we really want those people to know the product, be familiar with the company, familiar with the brand, where it's going. So usually those are the first time. That's where we look first, is internal. Is there any internal growth? Then, then we go external of people outside the organization. But if you're kind of internal, you already have the know abouts of, what it's like to work at Skechers. The product is always key. Not a lot of people know that we do shoes, yes, but we do a lot of apparel, and our apparel division is exploding right now. You're seeing 10 times growth in the last year of our e-com sales, and we need all those people to work for us. So how can you leverage your skills, with your portfolio that you have online, or just getting started? I think most of you are going to go to a university or looking into that. You can join, LinkedIn, and really start to build out your personal brand on there. Whether it's filling out the correct things you want to display on your profile, to a banner that has some of your social media stuff on there. But within that, I think social media is become kind of the new norm now, and I think there's a lot of footprint that people leave, whether it's posting the right things, posting, not so much that aligns with a lot of things, but, I think, you can really use those skills to, leverage all your guys' talent, because I really think, this next generation in the workforce is, going to do great things with, what they have. Any questions so far, Chris or Elizabeth?
No questions yet.
Cool. Okay. Good.
Yeah, you can go ahead and continue. Yeah,
Cool.
I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so another thing that Skechers is doing, we really work on the EVP, which is an employee valuation proposition. And what that means is, it's a slogan that we kind of live by in our careers, really dedicating it towards the employee, and really does it value or bring value to the employee, and make sure that we have everything that they need, that lines up with kind of their availability. So, little things like that we've never done before. And you're seeing a lot of employers start to showcase, employee testimonials, what it's like to work for companies, any kind of stuff to make the brand kind of more appealing, because it's so competitive, the job market these days, of all the brands. We really want, the top talent, and, how can, these employees or new candidates get ahead of it. So I would say just do your due diligence, and really just make sure, you have everything aligned when kind of working for a company. And then, as far as my career growth, I really started out, I worked in a retail store for Vans, and, really wanted to start to make my way into corporate. So I learned all the things I could with Vans. And then I got that opportunity to kind of go to corporate. Eventually went to another company, but, they need those kind of people that are starting kind of down the product specialist kind of in the retail stores. And so I did everything I could. I started learning more skills, whether it's because I want to do marketing, whether it's, learning from online courses to taking free internships with designers or, photographers. So, there's a lot of things that you can really leverage, with social media to help kind of your brand and overall portfolio look more appeasing, to the future employee or employer. Yeah. So another thing I think that I was just talking to the VP of retail today, that he was talking about the younger generation, right, where everyone is kind of has a cell phone, and the power that brings. But at the same time, the younger generation, we communicate through text messages, emails, DMs, whatever it may be. And I think that the next skill set for everyone to learn is kind of the people skills. And when communicating to those higher level executives, yes, I can email them, but what happens when I'm face to face with these people? And I think that's just the next skill set that everyone kind of needs to obtain these days. Of course, when you get on a phone call with a recruiter or someone you really want to work for, how can you leverage in the right way kind of things you've been working on, things you're aligned with, things that you've been actively looking for. So there's a lot of possibilities in today's age for your digital media and kind of what you can learn from it.
Brandon, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. We do have one question that
Okay.
refers to something you talked about a little bit ago, which is that there's different pathways through companies like yours, and some people can work up internally to different positions. And somebody asked if you knew, is there a certain percentage of hires that come from lower levels of Skechers, is what they wrote, but kind of what is that balance of people being hired externally to internally? Or
Right.
you also mentioned you worked at Vans, but then moved to another similar company later on. Is that also common, maybe?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. I think we always look to internal first. As soon as we get that open job requisition, we always look, okay, internally, who can either fill that position or work their way up into that. At Skechers, we do run reports where how many people we hire through internally. It's around like 45%. So we always look to that half first, which is great to see. But we're also building programs like a mentorship program, an IDP, so an individual development plan for these people. So say if I am a store manager and I really want to get into more store ops and retail, maybe twice a week, I might have a conversation with the head of retail store ops and, really learn those skills that I can really start to tailor my career path to that. So, you're seeing more, I think, in that way of having more the ability to have a voice in these companies. And that's why I think I really like Skechers, because, if you join other companies that are really, really big, you're almost just kind of a number where, since Skechers is still family oriented and operated, they really look to really honing those skills. The VP of HR that I work for, she was employee number 3, right? So she actually started out selling shoes with the owners, in LA, and then worked her way up. And now she's the head of the HR team, and she's been there for 29 years. There's countless numbers of people that have been with Skechers who started in our stores just as sales associates and worked their way up as they go on throughout the years. And then you'll see the retention because they just like working for a family brand that's, casually becoming one of the top footwear companies in the world. So it's pretty exciting to see. So with that, keep in mind that, yes, you'll learn some things in retail, but those skill sets, those people skills that you'll learn from working in a store, or whether it's a store or, in the food and restaurant business, you'll learn those people skills. And that's pretty much day to day what the decisions are made at companies are through people and how you project, ideas or thoughts. So, there's always possibilities to do that. And there's always career growth and pathways you can take. There's people in place at companies to help with people in development. And those are the people you want to reach out to say, I'm in one position, how do I get to this position in the next 2 to 3 years? And they'll put you on those programs. Thankfully, Skechers has now created that in the last 2 years. And, I'm actually in a mentorship program myself with the VP of retail. Very cool opportunity for myself. And it's only because I rose my hand and I said, I really want to be a part of something like that. And now that I get to spend time with him, every 2 weeks and really learn from him. And now I can just take my skill sets and really apply it to the next step of my career. But a lot of companies have those programs. A lot of companies don't, but they're working on it because they know the value of an employee, because that's really takes the company to the next level, is the people, not really necessarily the product. It's really the people that takes them to the next step. Hopefully I answered that question, Jess. So
Yes, that was great. Thank
yeah,
you.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, any other questions? I know
We have another question if this is a good
okay.
time.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we had somebody ask about interviewing.
Mhm.
They said, and I know you'd mentioned that building skills in social media was important, but they asked specifically about interviews, that it's a huge part of getting hired. So how do you build those skills specifically?
Yeah,
How do you
absolutely.
build interview skills?
Yeah, no, I think it's well, one, when you're interviewing for a position, obviously you really want it, right? But you kind of want to maintain your composure with that. Obviously, speaking to the person on the phone, you really want to do your due diligence on the specific role, the specific company you want to work for, and really learn some things outside before, so you become prepared when you come to that interview. When I interviewed with Skechers and they recruited me, I did my research. I knew they were number 3 in the world as far as global footwear. And I prepared some of my questions, and kind of put it back on them to answer. And one of those was, what programs are you internally doing for employer branding? Because that's kind of the position I was going for as part of my position now. And, I think that's the power of kind of doing your due diligence, because I knew on the career site, they didn't have too many things posted about internal stuff, about employees kind of giving their feedback or testimonials. So I really started to, kind of game plan my area around that, of kind of asking the right questions and really putting it back on, the employer. So 1, do your due diligence. 2, you can ask, kind of what this position needs to take to the next step. Really understand the job description, pick out things that might really are key to your skill set, and then maybe ask some things that, in this position, where might some difficulties, might be, and how I can contribute to that. So there's a plethora of things that you can do to kind of understand it, I think, but the overall thing is just be prepared with it. Deliver a thorough answer to all your answers, and then ask the right questions. I think that's the most important point. Always come prepared with 2 or 3 kind of in your back pocket at the end of the interview, but also as they come up and you hear people talking about the company, try to think of creative ways to ask the right questions, so you kind of get more information about it and really stand out, that you're so prepared for the the interview. So yep. So that's is that good, Jess?
Thank you so much. That's great.
Yeah,
Some great
yeah.
tips to get them started on thinking about
Mhm.
how to interview well.
Yeah. So another one
So
come in.
Brandon, one thing that is coming up for me, I like the way that you're talking about the balancing of, managing your digital footprint, but then also balancing that with soft skills, right? Like it's a combination of those 2 things that are really important. And one thing that is coming up for me is, what are some of the pitfalls or mistakes that you see people that are, trying to interview or trying to get a job with Skechers doing from a digital footprint perspective? What are some things for students to avoid with concern to their digital footprint?
Yeah, no, I think obviously it's not showing up and not being prepared, right? Some of the time the recruiters will ask, about the specific role, about certain things in there, or already in the communication between that to set up the interview, they might actually give you some homework of, be prepared to bring your portfolio and make sure it's it's a PDF instead of a PowerPoint, and then you show up, so just kind of think about all the angles that you're prepared for. One thing that was interesting about my interview was it was in person, it wasn't over the phone, and they actually had they gave me a almost like a problem to solve on a board, and they said here's a white pen, and just do your thing for 15 minutes. And it was very interesting to do. I've never seen that before in an interview, but I was prepared because I studied the brand, what were some of the thoughts that I had with the actual role, how it can contribute. But ultimately there's going to be those moments where you have to decide, do I be honest with them, or do I kind of sugarcoat it, or whatever it may be. But I think being honest and open with some of the things, I think that will really help them, and kind of not promise too many things as well. Because I think you could get yourself into a situation with a recruiter, or the hiring manager might know a little bit more about your portfolio and than as far as your resume being studied. So I just think just got to be prepared, come with some of those questions, and we kind of go from there. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm. Uh, yeah. So yeah, I mean, is there any other question, Chris, or one thing that we brought up beforehand?
Yeah, there's currently no questions in the chat, but some things that I would be curious to maybe have you explore and maybe give some tips about would be like really helping students understand what it means to establish a brand for themselves. You were talking about how part of Skechers brand is that they're family owned, and the way that they really like evoke that on their website. Like, could you explain how they showcase that value that they have of being family owned? And then from the student perspective, how could they do something similar? How do they evoke their values through their digital footprint, and also the way that they carry themselves in interviews and things like that?
Right. Yeah. So we just, our peer-to-peer foundation, which is, we donate to local schools to help underprivileged children and kind of help them get them school supplies. And, in the past, we were just doing that and kind of getting local press. But then, we really started to look at the social media aspect. We really want to start filming these, and putting together a whole production, getting interviews with people, and putting that into one kind of package. So now that lives on our website now for careers on their philanthropy, and really just shows kind of the impact that we have on the community of Manhattan Beach. If you're ever in LA, Manhattan Beach is pretty small, but we have 5 corporate offices in there, and we're very intertwined with the local communities. They're in that area. So how do we portray that, to, let's say, a candidate in the Midwest or East Coast? It's like you want to come work for Skechers, a Southern California brand right by the beach. Some of the corporate offices are, you can see the ocean from there. All the local schools we sponsor. And that's just little things like that I think we never really showcased, because we were just kind of a smaller brand. But now we're at that point where we need to showcase kind of what we're doing to give back. A couple of years ago, we donated almost 100,000 pairs of shoes to the Houston Relief Fund for when it flooded. And just showcasing, those things that we're doing all these great things, not because, it's just publicity or anything, but that's the family brand that we are, that we care about. So making sure that everyone understands that from a public standpoint. And then now, if you're very interested in Skechers, that just only kind of seals the deal that we do all those things. We have all these programs. Now, as far as a student, it is, building those extracurricular activities. So if you are very passionate about kind of going green and helping the save the environment, right, you can include that on your resume, and then you can bring it up in the interview. So you could do your research on Skechers and be like, oh, I saw that, your distribution center in North America is fully operated and going green. A lot of the materials are soy-based, so it has no harmful impact on the environment. I actually just volunteered at so-and-so at this public plant, and that passion was really strong to me, and it's really at my core value. I really like how you guys are, impacting the world like that. You don't see that very often. So then in that mind, that recruiter is really seeing, okay, this person's passionate about these things. We have all these programs. I think they would be a perfect culture fit, because they are aligned with what we're passionate about. Not only, yes, we sell shoes, but we really like to give back and go through the community route. And we have all these things they offer. I think he or she can really fit into this. So really looking at those opportunities, studying kind of the company. And like I said, I think the new employees or candidates have a stronger voice more than ever. They can really dictate and pick kind of the companies that they want to work for, because it is so competitive. And I think these things that we portray on our career site, not only organically, but yes, that we put those together so you guys will see those. Those are the things that are important to people these days. What we're doing from a social standpoint. Are we participating in social events? Are we doing our things? Last month was International Women's Day. Little things like that are just internal things, but we can speak about those if you're passionate about them. We had a whole panel of 30 women that work for Skechers, and they've been here for 15 to 20 years. I think all of them were, and they just showcase what it's like to work for this company, and internally brought up some things that we need to work on, and that's okay. But not a lot of companies talk like that. So, we as a brand, need to have all these things equipped, to, really showcase that, we're that type of brand that really cares about our employees, and we align with your views. Um, yeah, did I see another question come in?
Yeah, it looks like there is another question in the chat, and it is, how does a high school student start building a portfolio? And then maybe if you want to briefly talk about your educational background too, and I don't know, get into some brief details about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I did go to Windsor High School. It's a local school where you guys are from. I attended the Santa Rosa JC for a little bit. Didn't finish, but I was going to school for be a graphic design, and really started to kind of hone in on those skills. But like I said, the younger generation, your guys' age, are more equipped than ever to have the options to build all these portfolios. There's countless websites that are free for you to use and set up, and just keep it's almost like a mini blog of what you guys have been up to. So if you did volunteer at this one local event, you can add that to your portfolio on there. If you like to take photos, you can add that. If you do graphic design, you can add some of your work. And I think just leveraging that, you can always include a link in your resume, and the recruiters will go in and look at your portfolio, see what you've been up to. And this is where it's your point to kind of brag about yourself and all the things you've accomplished. Whether that's you're a captain on a soccer team or whatever, maybe a sports team, all the way until you volunteered at the local farmers market, and you're helping with that. So I just think it's using those tools to really showcase yourself, in that way. Now, when I joined Skechers, a lot of the work is on LinkedIn. I only had 200 connections, and quickly in 2 years, I've built it up to almost 8,000. And I really leverage kind of the things that I'm working on to help it all goes back to Skechers, right? So today, I did post on LinkedIn that I'm holding a workshop. I'm super excited to talk to you guys. And I just kind of brought it all home with, I'm really thankful that Skechers allowed me to join this panel, and I can work for that. So now people seeing this on LinkedIn and seeing my personal brand, they know that I'm attached to Skechers, that we allow these kind of speaking events, and now they're interested in Skechers and how we could potentially, how I could potentially work for them in the future. So it's pretty interesting stuff. And I think, you just need to work on just kind of bragging about yourself and showcasing the skills that you had or something you've worked on. And I think all will be useful for sure.
I just wanted to share that we've got some fellow Windsor people here, so they're cheering you on. I also wanted to know if you could just quickly, I don't know how many high school students are familiar with LinkedIn, and so could you just do like a quick 1-sentence explanation of LinkedIn for our students?
Yeah. So it is a career site where you can upload your professional history. It's 18 and up. Eventually they'll create that, but it's basically it's your own kind of portfolio and or profile of your working experience. So you have your current resume on there, you have some of your interests, you have a nice professional headshot of yourself, there's a banner option. So it's very user friendly, and it's a good way to network. So, you know, when I was going to work for Skechers, I started to connect with people at Skechers and then learn about their profile and see what they're posting. That's how I learned about some of the things that they're working on behind the scenes as far as like the family brand. And I brought that up in the interview and I said, oh, I saw this recruiter post this, you know, and I brought it up in the interview. So it's little things like that. And I think using that to the best of your ability, I think will really help leverage, you know, your personal brand for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's a perfect place to stop here. We're at that 2:31 mark. Really appreciate you joining us today, Brandon. And I think that last message is what is super important, that, you know, managing your digital footprint through avenues like LinkedIn is super vital, but also that is an opportunity to network. So not only does it help you manage what that digital footprint looks like when others view you online, but it gives you an opportunity to network with other people. So really great. So once again, I want to thank Brandon and our support crew for being here today. And I encourage all of you that are still with us live to check out any of the panels tomorrow or workshops. Once again, our first industry panel discussion starts at 11 a.m. tomorrow, and we'll focus on creative arts. So if you are interested in turning your creativity into a living, that's something that you should check out. And another reminder to fill out the attendance form. So that is in the chat. Jess, I believe, posted that in the chat for you guys. Feel free to fill out that form. Just make sure that you are aware that it is timestamped and it will be cross-referenced with our Zoom attendance records for your teachers. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.